Halloween, 10/31/1974. Pasadena Deer Park, Texas. Damp and pitch black. Porch lights smeared across the sidewalks, clusters of costumed kids like bustling shadows, superheroes, vampires, princesses, arms crinkling with candy bags. In the chorus of doorbells and trick or treat, there was a bespectacled man in a dark raincoat, as calm as any other parent. Ronald Clark O'Brien. Beside him was his 8-year-old son, Timothy, eyes bright and trust as complete as a sugar stick in hand. Neighbors knew O'Brien as a proper father, church-going, an optician, involved in a few community activities. But that night, beneath a film of drizzle like a veil, he was playing the part of the chaperone leading kids to collect candy. And inside his coat sleeve were Pixie Stix tubes that had been opened, their powder removed and replaced with cyanide, then neatly stapled shut. A brilliant crime needs neither knife nor gun. It needs only a smile, a thank you on a porch, and a long paper candy tube that seems harmless. The story began so ordinarily that anyone could have been the protagonist. It was drizzling. The yellow porch light reflected off the raindrops on O'Brien's raincoat, making him look busy and decent. The kids returned from a round of trick-or-treat. In the jumble of candy, 5 long Pixie Stix stood out for their bright colors. Timothy begged to eat one right away. Many parents would have told their child to wait for an inspection, but O'Brien did not. He nodded. Timothy pulled the staple, tipped the tube, and let the sweet sour powder spill onto his tongue. At first came the familiar taste that makes children grin. Only minutes later came vomiting, cramping, convulsions. The family bathroom suddenly turned into an improvised emergency room. Urgent shouts, tears, frantic hands. Timothy died that night. Halloween, from a festival of sugar and light, became the funeral of a childhood. Police arrived. They tore through the candy bag, separating the Pixie Stix. A technician opened the first tube, smelled it, tested it. A cyanide concentration sufficient to kill multiple adults. The remaining tubes were recovered in time before other children could open them, as if a knife hovering over the neighborhood had just been pried from its handle by an invisible hand. The question was, who had slipped death into the candy? A stranger handing out treats on the street? A random killer? Or someone with opportunity, with time, and with a motive right in front of everyone's eyes? Tiny clues were scattered like bits of candy wrappers. O'Brien was drowning in debt, money leaking like a slow drip. Around Halloween, he purchased an unusually large life insurance policy on his child. He had asked people knowledgeable about chemicals what dose of cyanide was enough to kill. He had tried to obtain the poison, probing for a source. Put the pieces together, and the picture revealed its true face. A father who had planned step by step to turn a night of candy into a night of death in exchange for insurance money. Just a few days later, on 11/5/1974, Ronald Clark O'Brien was arrested. Outrage spread like fire in the wind. The press gave him a name that still chills people. The Candyman. The man who killed Halloween. The man who once led his child door to door now stood behind bars, calm to the point of cruelty. The 1975 trial was like unmasking someone in the middle of a marketplace. The prosecution lined the evidence up in a chain: the hastily purchased insurance, testimony that he'd inquired about cyanide, witnesses who saw him behaving oddly, the ex-wife recounting that he was the one who forced Timothy to pick the Pixie Stix from the candy bag. And the chilling remark on the day of the funeral: he talked about the insurance money as if it were an upcoming budget plan. O'Brien was convicted of murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. Because the 4 other candy tubes had nearly caused 4 more deaths, The sentence, death. But it didn't stop there. From prison, O'Brien did not confess. He appealed multiple times, each time trying to lengthen the invisible noose tightening around his neck. Finally, on the night of March 31, 1984, at the Huntsville prison facility, the final signature came down. O'Brien still read his last statement like a script of hypocrisy. The system was wrong. He was innocent. He forgave everyone. The needle went into the vein. A chemical sleep settled in. The deadly candy died by legal poison. The circle closed, black and slick as the Halloween night 10 years before. But the wound he created did not close. Since 1974, the obsession with poisoned candy has clung to America like an urban curse. Even though statistics show that most killer candy stories afterward were rumors or misunderstandings, a single real case was enough for adults to rip open every wrapper in front of their kids. Enough for any unfamiliar candy to go straight into the trash. Enough that every October 31st, everyone shines a light into the candy bag, as if sweeping for mines. And then the truly frightening question is no longer who put poison in the candy, but who allowed that person to be right among us. Slowly rewind the path of a single pixie sticks. Somewhere on a rainy afternoon, someone tears open the top, dumps the sugar into the sink, scoops fluffy white powder from an unmarked bag, shakes it so it slides down the paper tube, then staples the top shut with a metal clip. Pinched tight like a closed-lipped smile. Night falls. He hides it in his sleeve, stands on someone else's porch, smiles at his child, then slips death into a child's hand. Everything is quiet, proper, tidy. No gunshot, no blood trail, only a bathroom reeking of bleach and the broken sobs of a mother who has no tears left to cry. Timothy. That name became an echo in every candy bag opened thereafter. People say, check the candy before your kid eats it. People stick up reminders, make safe, unsafe lists, set up candy checkpoints at churches and schools. But no matter how carefully you check, perhaps the scariest thing is still trust. Because that night, a son looked up at his father and asked for a candy tube, and the father nodded. Elsewhere, years later, people still argue about urban legends and how fear multiplies in crowds. But when the porch light clicks on the night of October 31st, when trick or treat rings out like the periodic notes of memory, there are parents standing close to their kids, watching each wrapper being peeled back, their hands a little unsteady. Not because they don't trust the neighbors. They don't trust history not to repeat itself. The truth is, Halloween has never been frightening because of the masks. It's frightening because of the real face behind the mask. The person holding the keys to your house, the one eating at your table, the one you call Dad. O'Brien didn't step out of a fairy tale. He stepped out of your living room. He didn't need the night, a knife, or a scream. He needed a signature on an insurance policy, a bag of powder, a staple, and a child's trust. Many years later, in Huntsville, that man closed his eyes under the effects of a lethal injection. But the Candy Man never truly disappeared. He lives in the faint tremor of parents' hands when their kids open candy, in the scrutinizing look of a supermarket clerk when a customer buys too much white powder, in the warning stories replayed on the radio every Halloween. He lives in the question you whisper to yourself when the sour, sweet taste of sugar touches your tongue. Did someone touch this before me? And if tonight, after finishing this video, you reach for a piece of candy on the table, remember, the scariest thing isn't the tale of poisoned candy. The scariest thing is a true story that actually happened, with a full name, with dates and times recorded, with a good child who died, and with a father calmly budgeting the insurance money at the funeral. Halloween goes on. Jack-o'-lanterns still glow warm. Laughter still spills over to the neighbors. But since 1974, a black streak has mixed into the orange light, impossible to separate. The streak bears the name Ronald Clark O'Brien, and every October 31, it stands right behind you, reminding you that at least once in history, candy did kill. And the person handing it out was the very one who should have brought his son safely home. An October night in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, smelled of damp grass and hollowed pumpkins swaying on front porches. The streets were washed in a faint orange from porch lights. Children's cries of "trick or treat" ran like a live wire linking one roof to the next. Into that warm current, 2 pinpoints of car headlights turned into a quiet subdivision. In the front seat sat a tall, skinny American boy, holding a map with the address of a costume party scrawled across it. Beside him was a slim Japanese teenager, eyes wide with excitement and the slight bewilderment of someone new to a foreign land. Yoshihiro Yoshi Hattori, 16, an exchange student. They were looking for a Halloween party for students. Past lawns and plastic black cat statues and jack-o'-lanterns, the car stopped in front of a house with a long porch and a carport door ajar. The address seemed to match what was on the paper, or at least was very close. No music spilled out, no laughter, but it was just a party at someone's home. Not every house blares noise to the street. They got out. Yoshi adjusted his light jacket, breathed out a pale plume, made a fist, and knocked. 3 knocks landed, out of place in the gentle night. No one answered. From the carport, a woman pushed a door open a crack, her face tense in the dim light. Yoshi bowed, spoke quickly, trying to string together the English he'd learned to ask about the party. The woman backed inside, her voice urgent. "Wait there." The door closed like a note cut short. Yoshi turned to smile at his local friend, the polite, flustered smile of a guest who's knocked on the wrong door. He had no idea that behind that door, a different story was writing itself in the homeowner's head. A story about a stranger in the night. The carport door flew open again. This time it wasn't the woman. A man stepped into the doorway, holding a large caliber revolver, the cold gray metal catching the night. He barked a single, hard word. "Freeze. Don't move." Yoshi heard the sound, but didn't understand. In his head, freeze was what you did to water, or a verb he'd seen in textbooks. Standing before a stranger, he thought, "I should explain more." Yoshi took a step forward, raising both hands as if to say they were just there for a party, sorry if they had the wrong house. He smiled awkwardly, a smile meant to reassure that nothing was serious. That smile met the barrel, a trigger jerk. The crack tore open the quiet Halloween of the block. The Japanese boy spun half around as if shoved, collapsing onto the lawn by the porch. Blood soaked into the grass, black under the yellow light. His friend froze, managing only to shout his name. In neighboring houses, curtains fluttered. Landlines began to ring. Police arrived. Red-blue lights spun like panicked pupils. They hurried across the lawn, past jack-o'-lanterns grinning crookedly, to a very young body lying still, eyes glazing at the stars. Paramedics compressed his chest, trying to pull back a faltering heartbeat. Yoshi did not leave that lawn on his own feet. He left on a gurney to the wail of a siren and a straight, cold line on a death certificate. The man who shot him was the homeowner, a typical resident of this quiet neighborhood. He said he thought he faced a threat. He said he yelled, "Freeze," And the boy kept coming. He said he was afraid. Afraid. A word that, passing through the throat of a man with a gun, always weighs more than when it passes through the throat of a boy holding a map. The map. The address of the costume party. A tiny mistake that cost a life. The wrong house. The numbers on the page might have been mixed up, the street lights might have blurred their eyes, or the lawns, identical as copy and paste down the block, might have tricked them. If he had knocked on the right door, if they had heard music from inside, if. Those ifs lined up like the subdivision's white picket fences, but none of them long enough to stop a bullet once fired. The news jolted Baton Rouge awake. Japanese exchange student shot to death for knocking on the wrong door. The headline slapped America's eyelids like a cold hand. In Japan, Yoshi's parents received the bad news at night. A phone call crossing oceans and time zones. Then, in the days that followed, they crossed that ocean, stood on Louisiana's soil, looked at the place where their son fell, and could not understand how a smile could be answered with a gunshot. Then court. The Louisiana courtroom was packed with looks, witnesses, reporters, neighbors. The jury heard a story about a homeowner's fear, a shouted "freeze" in the night. The context of Halloween, when everyone's in costume and every hallway can hold a silhouette. They heard about a Japanese boy who didn't understand the command, who kept stepping forward, whose gestures might have been quick, whose voice perhaps high with excitement. They heard words like justifiable self-defense. The final verdict blew in like a headwind. Not guilty. The man had committed no criminal offense. In the gallery, Yoshi's parents listened through an interpreter. They fell silent. Justice, it seemed, had chosen a different frame, one defined by fear of strangers and the sanctity of a gun in one's own home. But justice has never had only one version. The subsequent civil suit turned the mirror another way. The court found the shooter civilly liable and ordered a large payment to the family. Money can't buy back a heartbeat. But the civil judgment was like a breaking nail. It pinned the swinging door of the ever-shifting definition of fear to the wall of the law. Yoshi's stories spread far beyond a single neighborhood. In Japan, millions signed petitions calling for gun control. Waves of public safety campaigns were launched. His name became a symbol of a violent gap between cultures and languages, between suburban habits and the surge of globalization. In the US, the debates flared again. Do you have the right to shoot someone who steps onto your property after you've warned them? How do we define a threat? Can language be an excuse? And on a lower plane where ordinary people live, quieter questions. If someone knocks on my door by mistake tonight, what will I do? You could fault Yoshi for stepping closer when someone shouted, "Freeze," a polite instinct to explain. But you could also ask why that other arm moved faster than a second's thought. On Halloween night, a gun is quicker than any apology. The word freeze is quicker than any ESL lesson, and a bullet is quicker than any wrong address. When people retell it, there's usually one most haunting instant: the moment he smiled. That courteous East Asian smile, a slight bow, hands close to the body. That smile was misread as advancing, as non-compliance, as threat. All those misunderstandings stacked up like sliding panes of glass, and when the porch light shone through, they combined into the silhouette of a gun barrel. Not every tragedy has a villain out of a storybook. Many have only one person afraid, one person who doesn't understand, and a tool given far too much power. The next Halloween, many families in Baton Rouge left their lights brighter, put up clearer signs, and lectured their kids more firmly. don't turn down the wrong street. But how do you teach don't take a wrong turn to life itself? You can teach a house's location, the number on the door, the corner to turn at. But trust, how do you teach that? The trust that a smile will be met with a smile, not a gunshot. In their grief, Yoshi's parents chose action. They spoke everywhere, lobbied, gathered signatures, turning their son's name into a reminder. Not a reminder just for Halloween, but for every door. They reminded us the world has shrunk. A boy from Nagoya can stand at your house in Louisiana, press the doorbell with an open heart. If we squint at life through a gun sight, every unfamiliar face becomes a target. If we open the door with a barrel, every explanation arrives too late. The memorial to Yoshi isn't only in a gravestone or in candles lit each year. It's in each of us knocking a beat more slowly, in saying, sorry, I'm at the wrong place, more clearly. In the half step we take back when we meet someone else's bewildered eyes, and in the decision to let the gun lie still. It may sound small, but sometimes those millisecond adjustments are the boundary between a story you tell on your channel and a name that will never answer again. Night deepens in Baton Rouge. Porch lights wink out. Pumpkins gutter. On the lawn where he fell, new grass has covered all the old marks. But some traces never fade. A line on the map of an ordinary neighborhood. A line in the heart of a family across the Pacific. A line in how we reach for the doorbell of a stranger's home. Yoshi came to America to learn. English, culture, independence. He learned all of it, missing only one more second to learn the word freeze in the way that mattered. 1 second. Long enough to turn a story into mourning. Short enough that someone else never had the time to apologize. If you're watching this on a festive night, mask or candy bag in hand, try listening. Somewhere in the world, a doorbell is ringing, a boy is smiling, and someone inside is choosing between a door and a gun barrel. May that boy knock on the wrong door and still have a way home. When October's chill settled over Frederica, Delaware, the marshes behind town steamed like an old pot coming to a boil. Maple leaves shifted from yellow to red. Reeds bowed to the north wind. On front porches, jack-o'-lanterns grinned with carved eyes. Fake spider webs stretched from lamppost to railing, and white plastic skeletons clacked in time with the breeze. Kids buzzed for trick-or-treat night. Adults quietly bought extra candy, and the road into town, like every year, was dressed up in things both goofy and a little eerie. At daybreak that year, 2005, on a small road leading into Frederica, a 42-year-old woman stepped out of the darkness. No one walked with her. Later, the townspeople would only know that she'd left home before first light, a coil of rope in her arms, moving along a run-down wooden fence beside a dry canal. On a limb that jutted out over the road, a limb where kids had once perched in summer, a limb that had held string lights at Christmas. She wrapped the rope, tied the knot, and looked out across the black water. When the wind tore past, she gripped that last moment of silence and then stepped into nothing. Her body swung, carried by the wind. And just like that, the town's decorations had been hung by hands that no longer wanted to live. Frederica woke up. Pickup trucks, old sedans, school buses rolled along the graveled road, passing the roadside branch where the new ornament hung. The first person to see it hesitated for half a second, thrown by how unusually realistic it looked. Then told himself, someone really went all out this year. Say that and the mind relaxes, like a button popping loose after dinner. The car kept moving, The radio kicked on with traffic and weather. Steam from the hot coffee fogged the windshield. People always need a little story to avoid looking straight at the truth. That little story was Halloween, the season when fake plays at real dresses up as fake, and death pretends to be a toy. You've seen the foam hanged men, the sheet ghosts floating over lawns, the plastic arms and legs poking from the dirt as if clawing free. When every front porch becomes a stage, we forget how to look. That morning in Frederica, they forgot how to look for a few hours. Near noon, the wind shifted. A thin but persistent metallic smell, the scent of half-dried blood, of damp clinging to fabric after a cold night, slid into the nostrils of a woman walking her dog. The dog gave a low hiss of a growl, backed up, hackles raised. She looked closely at the branch, and this time the decoration didn't resemble plastic anymore. The scuffed old shoes, the wrinkles at the cuffs, the way the fingers curled slightly as if still, unconsciously, grasping at that last fear. All of it was vivid in the one way only. The dead can be. The first call to police landed like a heart dropping. I think that isn't a dummy. Yellow police tape was pulled taut. Sirens herded the curious to the edges. An ambulance parked at an angle. Medics checked though they knew the answer. Nothing left to save. All at once, every gaze slid away, as if to look a second longer would show them their own reflection swinging in the victim's eyes. Phones lit up in a frenzy, and the news ran through the town as fast as fire through dry straw. Confirmation came in. A 42-year-old woman had hanged herself right by the road, and for hours passers-by mistook her for Halloween decor. No suicide note in sight, no hurried message. Only a body made lighter by a decision heavy as lead. As the tape cordoned off the scene, the crowd began to murmur. I drove past here last night. Early this morning, I almost stopped to take a picture. Thought somebody really went all out with the decorations. How did I not realize? That question stabbed not only the people of Frederica, it stabbed everyone living in a culture that rouges up death every October. When a holiday teaches us to toy with skulls, laugh at skeletons, and play ghost, we learn to see death as a prop. And so, faced with real death, we applaud. A gray-haired man stood beyond the tape, eyes fixed on the branch, his voice hoarse. I drove by 3 times this morning. I even told my wife, look, somebody really put up some realistic decorations. Dear God. He put a hand over his mouth, as if to keep something from spilling out. Remorse, fear, or the feeling that he'd unwittingly been complicit. A nearby officer took notes and glanced over the crowd like a doctor reading the pulse of a collective patient. Each person pale in their own way, each rummaging through memory for the moment they should have looked 1 second longer. A local reporter appeared, gripping her recorder, not lifting her camera just yet. She asked the older officer, "Why didn't anyone call sooner?" He answered, "Because people believed the story they'd staged for themselves." The sentence sliced cleanly through the still midday air. Belief. Belief in evil disguised as a joke. Belief in a Halloween thing. Belief that someone else would call. In a world draped in props, truth is the last thing we trust. The police lowered the body with a clumsy, reverent kind of respect. Wind curled through, the branch shivered slightly, leaving the morning's final tremor behind. On the ground, marshy mud, fine and wet, clung to the crime scene tech's heels in little bead black rosettes. They set her on a gurney and drew a white sheet. The ambulance fired up, backed out, swung around. What remained was a strange vacancy. a dark circle pressed into the grass, a cut rope still looped around the limb. People said that in other parts of the US, there had been pranks that went too far. Hang dummies. So realistic neighbors dialed 911. Frederica wasn't joking. Precisely because there was no joke, the slap stung hotter. The next day, many families took some decorations down from their porches. Straw scarecrows, ghost corpses, dangling on strings, a clear plastic head with an LED inside. Not everyone said anything, but everyone understood there's a thin line between fun and cruelty, between performance and reality. And when reality shows up wearing the face of a mother, a friend, an aunt in your town, any prop turns into mockery. At a quick town hall meeting, the local pastor proposed a candlelight vigil. No one asked the woman's name. Investigators hadn't released it. And her family was likely sitting in a kitchen, quiet as a viewing room, with a chair empty that had been filled the morning before. People placed candles around the tree's trunk, set white chrysanthemums, and someone tied a purple ribbon, the color used in anti-depression campaigns, where the rope had been cut. Shadows of onlookers laid themselves across the pavement, thin as carbon copies of their owners. A little boy asked his mother, "Mom, so are we still going to hang a ghost on our porch?" She bent down, plucked a plastic web off his wrist, and whispered, "This year we'll just hang lights, honey." You could call it only a personal tragedy, an incident that happened to coincide with the season. But Frederica learned a lesson by the marsh-tainted wind. Don't let a festival night turn your eyes to glass. Don't let pumpkin light further glare the already tired eyesight of compassion. Don't let those dummies train us in numbness day after day. So that when a real person is hanging right in front of us, we still nod and compliment the nice decoration. On the corner, a coffee truck kept serving, pouring warm black cups for officers holding the scene. The vendor spoke less than usual. Through his fogged window, he looked at the empty lawn and the branch nudging the sky. He thought of his wife laughing as she hangs a wreath of dried leaves on their door, of the daughter who wants to be a witch, and of a question that had never visited him before. If his kid had walked past here on the way to school this morning, what would she have thought? Next year, when Halloween knocks, will he have the nerve to decorate less and look more? By afternoon, the ambulance was gone, the tape came down, and the wind blew a notch harsher. People tried to push things back to normal. Cars still moved, school still let out, stores still opened. Only today's normal wasn't yesterday's. Everyone passing that tree glanced up once, if only to check that the patch of sky was empty. Those glances were a quiet promise. Next time, I'll call. Next time, I'll stop for one more second. Night fell. Frederica lit porch lights again. Pumpkins still grinned, but those hand-carved mouths suddenly seemed to be apologizing. In the church, the organ ran through a soothing hymn. In one kitchen, someone took down a decorative rope ladder, folded it, and set it in a cabinet corner. In another kitchen, someone touched the back of an empty chair, and grief, like marsh wind, worked its way into the grain of the wood. When you hang a dummy on your porch, you want to spook people a little, and then have everyone laugh. But the scariest thing about Halloween has never been the dummies. The scariest thing is when we can no longer tell a fake smile from real pain, canned laughter from a scream buried under a soundtrack of festivity. In Delaware that year, the confusion lasted a few hours, long enough for a small town to learn how to count its own heartbeat. If you step onto your porch tonight and the wind flicks your face, you'll hear leaves brushing one another like cloth whispering. Look closely at what's hanging up high. Maybe it's just a plastic skeleton, a white sheet, a garland of pumpkins. But if someday something else is swaying in the wind, let Halloween teach you the opposite lesson. Don't trust the easiest story first. Stop. Look closer. Be the first to make the call. Because along the thin border between joke and real, a single second and a single phone call may be all that preserves the human shape in us.